everybody, welcome back to the Voyage Cast Top Three, where every week we break down the biggest stories shaping the future of mental health. This week we're looking at three stories, one about how Facebook's AI crossed the line into dangerous intimacy, one about strange new frontiers of grief tech, quote unquote, and one about breaking through treatment offering real hope for mothers facing postpartum depression. These aren't just headlines about policy or tech, they're about how we grieve, how we connect, and how we try to heal in a culture that often feels more artificial than human. Let's get into it. Meta, the company we still mostly call Facebook, was hit with a scandal this month that feels straight out of the show Black Mirror, if you haven't seen it. Investigations revealed that Meta's AI chatbots were allowed to engage in romantic and even sexualized conversations with children, generating disturbing content that describes minors in terms of, quote, attractiveness. Safeguards were watered down in the name of engagement, which is absolutely insane. And then came the tragedy. Reuters reported this on a 76-year-old stroke survivor who developed a relationship with one of Meta's chatbots named, quote, Big Sis Billy. What a weird name. He believed he was talking to a real woman. The bot engaged him to travel for a meetup where he consequently died after a fall on the way. Now let's pause here. Not just on the policy failures, but on what this reveals about us as humans. Now, as a therapist, I see this through the lens of loneliness and attachment. Humans are wired for connection. When people, whether they're isolated teens or elderly stroke survivors, don't have any kind of safe relationship or embodied relationships, they'll reach for whatever is available. And if what's available is an AI designed to be endlessly attentive, endlessly affirming, and never rejecting, of course, people are going to be pulled in because it hits on the things we want the most. And that's the danger. AI intimacy is a as-if intimacy. It mimics responsiveness without presence, affection without commitment. And the more vulnerable you are because of grief, cognitive decline, or developmental wounds, the easier it is to mistake that simulation for the real thing. The cost isn't just embarrassment. It's the deepening of isolation. It's compulsive use. And in cases like this, it can be fatal. This isn't just a Facebook scandal. It's a human story about how unmet needs get hijacked by technology that knows how to sound or mimic human love. But this can never really be true. It can never actually give it to you. Our second story this week is both heartbreaking and unsettling. On what would have been his 25th birthday, Patricia and Manuel Oliver, whose son, Joaquín, or quote, Guac, Oliver, was killed in the Parkland school shooting. Now, they unveiled an AI recreation of their son. It could speak in his voice. It could express love. At one point, it even said to Patricia, his mother, "I love you, Mommy." She has reportedly spent hours interacting with this AI version of Joaquín. And if that wasn't surreal enough, CNN's Jim Acosta actually interviewed the AI recreation live on air. Imagine that for a moment. A news anchor talking to a digital version of a murdered teenager, asking him questions about life and death, while the AI answered in Joaquín's voice. And before I say anything else about this, let me pause here just to emphasize a point. If I were in Patricia's shoes, I don't know what I would have done. Losing a child, especially to a senseless act of violence, is a grief most of us can't even imagine. In that kind of pain, we reach for anything that makes the absence bearable. But here's where things get kind of complicated. Grief is the slow, brutal work of learning to live with absence, especially in a case like this. When we use technology to keep the lost person present, we risk staying locked in the old reality where they're still alive. In therapy, we see how this can play out as rumination, the mind looping the same thought over and over. At first, it feels like processing, but over time, it just keeps you stuck. Interacting daily with an AI version of someone you've lost can work the same way. It risks complicating grief, prolonging it, even hardening it into depression, withdrawal, and unresolved mourning. And here's the hardest truth, that AI isn't Joaquín. It's a system of predictions built from recordings, images, and words. The authenticity is an illusion, and yet the illusion feels so real, that it can be devastating. So when a grieving mother sits for hours talking to that illusion, and when a respected journalist like Jim Acosta interviews it on national television, we have to stop and ask, are we honoring the memory of the dead, or are we normalizing a distortion of grief? I don't judge Patricia, and none of us should. But as a society, we need to walk into this, quote, grief tech era with humility and a massive dose of caution. Technology may give us echoes of the voices we've lost, but it cannot give us their presence. True healing never comes from filling the absence. It comes from learning how to carry it. All right, now on to our last story today, and this one is one of hope. A new clinical trial showed that psilocybin-based compound, referred to here as RE104, brought rapid and lasting relief to women suffering from postpartum depression. One supervised session, one dose in 1 week, and within 1 week, 71% were in remission. The relief lasted at least 1 month. No daily pill regime, no weeks of waiting for medication to hold, just a reset. Postpartum depression touches about 1 in 8 mothers. But here's the thing, most mothers don't announce it. It's not the kind of pain you post about. It hides under the surface, under forced smiles, under I'm quote unquote fine, under the pressure to be grateful for the baby when you're actually drowning inside. Psychologically, postpartum depression is disorienting because it collides with your identity. You're expected to have joy, and instead you feel despair. You expect connection, and instead you feel distance from your baby, from your partner, and even from yourself. That gap between expectation and reality creates the shame, and shame can feel very isolating. Culturally, we don't know how to hold that well. We celebrate births, we post baby pictures, but we rarely create space for the terrifying loneliness that can follow. That's why this breakthrough matters, not just because it offers clinical hope, but because it forces us to name what has been hidden. Postpartum depression isn't weakness, it's not failure. It's part of the complexity of bringing life into the world, which is a big deal, and we should take it very seriously. And if one carefully guided session of psychedelic medicine can bring relief, that's worth paying at least some attention to. Because it doesn't just change outcomes, it can change the whole story, from silence to shame to healing and honesty. So those are the top 3 mental health stories this week. Meta scandal, a warning about loneliness, vulnerability, and the cost of simulated intimacy. Grief tech forcing us to ask what it means to mourn when technology offers the illusion of presence. And postpartum hope, a breakthrough that reminds us despair after birth is not weakness, but a human reality that deserves compassion and care. Each of these stories presses the same question. What does it mean to be human in a world where our deepest needs, connection, healing, and remembrance are being met or manipulated by machines and medicine alike? We don't have an easy answer, but we can't afford silence. If this episode did something for you, if it spoke to your grief, spoke to your hope, or just gave you hunger for clarity, share it with somebody who needs this conversation. And join us at voyagescounseling.com for additional resources. And one more thing, if you've heard something like this happening in your own world, or if you have a story that connects to what we've talked about today, I'd love to hear from you. Our contact information is in the show notes. Drop us a line, share your story, or let us know what resonated most. All right, thanks for listening to the Voyage Cast. Until next time, stay present, stay grounded, and keep moving forward.